Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Lam, sitting in for David Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's top stories. Donald Trump was fined hundreds of millions of dollars. He is also being temporarily banned from doing business in New York. 2 minors charged in the Kansas City shooting. More on how locals are healing and coping. Hikers stranded in snowy conditions atop a mountain in California. We'll take a look at the dramatic rescue operation. Today, former President Donald Trump was fined hundreds of millions of dollars in a civil fraud case. The judge ruled that Trump inflated his wealth on financial statements given to banks, insurers, and others to make deals and secure loans.
A New York judge ordered Donald Trump on Friday to pay $364 million in a fraud case. Trump is also banned from doing any business in New York for 3 years. Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. cannot serve as an officer or director of any New York corporation for 2 years. Former Trump Organization executives Alan Weisselberg and Jeffrey McConey are permanently banned from doing business in New York. After a 2.5-month trial, Judge Arthur Engoron ruled that the penalty was a years-long scheme to dupe banks and others with financial statements that inflated the former president's wealth. The stiff penalty was a victory for New York Attorney General Letitia James, who sued Trump for what she called deceptive practices. She claims he built a multinational collection of skyscrapers, golf courses, and other properties that catapulted him to wealth, fame, and the White House. Trump's lawyers had said even before the verdict that they would appeal. Because it is civil, not criminal in nature, there is no possibility of prison time.
Now let's take a look at other top headlines. A Georgia judge heard the second day of evidence against DA Fani Willis for engaging in an improper affair with one of her top prosecutors. The key question centered on when Willis began the romantic relationship with her prosecutor Nathan Wade. One witness testified it was in 2019 yesterday before Wade was hired by Willis, contradicting Willis's court filing that claimed 2021. Terrence Bradley, an attorney and former friend and colleague of Wade, testified today saying he had no personal knowledge of when Willis and Wade's romantic relationship began.
Fani Willis's romantic relationship beginning while they were both serving as judges, is any knowledge that you have from your own personal knowledge or something that was told to you in furtherance of legal advice?
I have no personal knowledge of when it actually happened. I was not there. I do not have any personal knowledge, so I would choose not to answer that question.
Because Bradley has represented Wade in his divorce case, Judge Scott McAfee ruled that defense attorneys in the Georgia election case can't ask Bradley about what Wade personally told him about his relationship with Willis, citing attorney-client privilege. McAfee said he would go over those conversations with Bradley in a closed-door hearing without prosecutors or defense lawyers present. Stakes remain high if Judge McAfee grants the motion to disqualify Willis due to conflict of interest. It could derail the entire Georgia election subversion case she brought against Trump and 18 other co-defendants. A former FBI agent has been charged with lying about President Biden and his son Hunter Biden's alleged involvement with the Ukrainian energy company. In a statement on Thursday, Special Counsel David Weiss said former federal agent Alexander Smirnov falsely reported to the FBI in 2020 that Hunter and Joe Biden were paid $5 million each in bribes some years earlier. The money, he said, came from Ukrainian energy company Burisma. An attorney for Hunter Biden said the charges show the probe against the president's son is based on dishonest allegations. Abby Lowell said in a statement, "For months we have warned that the Republicans have built their conspiracies about Hunter and his family on lies told by people with political agendas, not facts. We were right and the air was out of their balloon." Hunter Biden sat on the board of Burisma from 2014 to 2019. For part of that time, his father was the U.S. vice president under former President Barack Obama. In December, the House of Representatives voted to formally authorize an ongoing impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden. Some Republicans made the Biden's connection with Burisma a centerpiece of their push to impeach the president. When former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced the inquiry in September last year, he said that a trusted FBI informant has alleged a bribe to the Biden family. Smirnov was arrested on Wednesday, Weiss said, and faces up to 25 years in prison. And 2 minors have been charged with gun-related offenses in connection to the Kansas City Chiefs rally shooting earlier this week. The 16th Judicial Circuit Court of Missouri announced the charges in a statement today. Police initially detained 3 people, but released 1 who they determined wasn't involved in the shooting. Police are asking witnesses, victims, and people with cell phone video to call a dedicated hotline. Meanwhile, Kansas City locals are turning to religious gatherings, vigils, and counseling to try to cope with the horror of what happened. Taylor Swift made 2 $50,000 donations to a GoFundMe for the family of Lisa Lopez Galvin, the 43-year-old mother of 2 killed in the shooting. Chiefs MVP quarterback Patrick Mahomes made a hospital visit to the 2 girls who were shot and injured. At least 11 children were wounded during the shooting, but were expected to recover. Authorities said at a press conference on Thursday that the relationship between the subjects involved is still under investigation, but that there's no evidence of links to terrorism. And jailed Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has died, according to the Russian prison service. He was 47 years old. The Federal Penitentiary Service said in a statement that Navalny felt unwell after going on a walk and almost immediately lost consciousness. The cause of death is still being determined. Navalny was a longtime vocal critic of Russian President Vladimir Putin. A Kremlin spokesman says Putin was informed of Navalny's death and that the prison service is investigating. Navalny's wife says Putin and his government will be punished after her husband's death. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg urged Russia to provide answers regarding the circumstances. Some 500 people gathered outside the building that used to hold the Russian embassy in Tbilisi to mourn over Navalny's sudden death. Human skulls, guns, and more were found at an Arizona shop after a business inspection triggered a search warrant. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
2 human skulls, 7 stolen vehicles, 2 pounds of methamphetamine, 2 rifles, and 1 sawed-off shotgun were all discovered at an auto shop in Mesa, Arizona. The finds led to the arrests of 2 individuals who now face multiple charges. According to the Arizona Department of Public Safety, investigators came across stolen vehicles on the property during a business inspection. The state's Vehicle Theft Task Force detectives then served a search warrant on February 8th. Department of Public Safety spokesperson Bart Graves told KJZZ, quote, "In our experience, when VTTF serves these warrants, some of these locations, such as auto shops, are more of a front for illegal activity that's occurring within." The stolen vehicles include 4 trailers, a 2008 Ford pickup, a Clark forklift, and a 2016 Arctic Cat. It's unclear if the human skulls are connected to any of the other finds. They've been sent to the Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office, and no further details have been given at this time. Jason Blair, NTD News.
Several hikers have been rescued to safety after they got stranded in treacherous snowy conditions near the top of Mount Baldy. NTD's Christina Corona has more on the story.
6 hikers were rescued Wednesday evening from being stranded in the snow near Mount Baldy summit. As darkness fell, authorities later revealed they were ill-equipped for an overnight stay. Authorities reported that the hikers were trapped in the snow at an altitude of 9,000 feet near the summit of Mount Baldy on the Bear Canyon Trail. After being stranded for several hours, they reached out to 911 for assistance, and deputies promptly arrived.
San Dimas Search and Rescue relayed to me that they actually were able to text 911. And the text service that San Dimas Station has, when they get those 911 text messages, it gives us or them a GPS coordinate. Every time they text, it updates that GPS coordinate. So that's how they were actually able to find out and locate exactly where they're at.
Video footage shared by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department's Special Enforcement Bureau shows the dramatic rescue operation, showing the hikers in a line holding on to each other's backs as they walk towards the helicopter. Deputies used hoists to airlift the hikers to safety. First responders indicated that there was 2 feet of snow on the ground and the temperature dropped to 14 degrees Fahrenheit with the wind chill. It's unknown if any of the hikers were injured. This comes just days after the body of an Navalny woman who had gone missing while hiking on Mount Baldy was found dead. Li Fei Huang, 22, was reported missing on February 4th after failing to return from a solo hike. In June 2023, human remains were discovered on Mount Baldy and later confirmed to be those of the actor Julian Sands, who had been missing for 5 months following a hiking trip. Christina Corona, NTD News, California.
Victims of Jeffrey Epstein now suing the FBI. They allege the agency helped cover up over 2 decades of sex trafficking operations. NTD's Stephanie Sakal has the story.
A dozen victims of Jeffrey Epstein filed a lawsuit on February 14, accusing the FBI of hiding its failure to investigate the late financier, allowing his sex trafficking to continue for over 20 years. The victims, using pseudonyms like Jane Doe, claimed the FBI had information about Epstein's actions since 1996 but didn't act. Though the FBI started an investigation in 2006, it was halted after Epstein's guilty plea in 2008. The victims argue that the FBI negligence allowed their abuse to continue. The lawsuit seeks damages from the U.S. government. The U.S. Department of Justice did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The total number of victims is believed to be over 100. Victims have reached settlements in previous legal battles, but whether they have received compensation in those settlements is uncertain. Stephanie Sakal, NTD News.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come right back. An abandoned skyscraper in Los Angeles is attracting dangerous activities and costing the city millions of dollars. We'll zoom in on the current situation. A semi-truck explosion injures 9 firefighters in Southern California. More on what led up to the incident. A historic moment in the world of college basketball. Iowa's Caitlin Clark achieved a new milestone at a recent game. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Lamb. Taggers, base jumpers, and a Chinese-owned abandoned building in downtown Los Angeles may end up costing city taxpayers millions of dollars. I speak with NTD's Bill Thomas for more insight. Bill Thomas, it's good to see you. Now, Bill, can you tell us what's happening with this skyscraper known as Oceanwide Plaza in the heart of downtown LA? And also, good evening.
Hey, good evening, David. Great to be with you. This is a story about urban blight, crime, danger, and accountability. You know, there are dozens of legendary buildings and skyscrapers in downtown Los Angeles, and most of them, they are extremely well kept. You have the Wilshire Grand Center, U.S. Bank Tower, both 73 floors. The Ritz-Carlton Los Angeles with 54 floors. Last time I looked when I drove through, I didn't notice any graffiti. However, graffiti or tagging is in fact very popular in Southern California, and you'll see graffiti or spray painted buildings in a variety of locations all over LA County. Now, taggers have found a prime target. It's a skyscraper known as Oceanwide Plaza, which is owned by Oceanwide Holdings, and they're a publicly traded Chinese company based in Beijing that actually stopped work on this project nearly 5 years ago, back in 2019, when they say they ran out of money.
Now, Bill, what kind of building were they putting together there? It seemed like it was some kind of massive business complex.
Yeah, this was planned as a $1 billion multi-use complex intended to house hotel and retail space, luxury condominiums, and apartments as well. But as it sat vacant, trouble kicked in. Now, more than 25 floors of the building have been tagged with spray paint, making it a real eyesore for the city. And now, to make things worse, base jumpers have used the building as a dangerous launching pad. City officials say they're jumping from the building and paragliding down to the street. And this is a quote from LA City Councilman Kevin De Leon. He says, "My fear is that someone's going to go up there, they're going to push the limit and fall to their death, and somehow, some way, the city will be liable for it." And David, that's like me breaking into your house, falling down the stairs and breaking my arm and suing you. It's just preposterous. But we do live, as you know, in a very litigious society.
Bill, so for people who are only vaguely familiar with downtown LA, I mean, I've been there, but can you show us a map of where all this is happening?
Yeah, absolutely. You can see on Google Maps that this building is right next to a number of very well-regarded LA landmarks, including Grand Park, the Grammy Museum, part of LA Live, also extremely close, almost across the street from Crypto.com Arena, home to the Lakers, Clippers, Kings, and Los Angeles Sparks. Clearly, David, this hideous building, it's just not appropriate for this neighborhood. It's a real eyesore.
Is this vacant, battered building here to stay, or can the city government do anything to fix this nightmare?
David, great question. LA City Councilman Kevin De Leon, he has introduced a motion seeking to allocate $3.8 million to secure the vandalized, abandoned downtown skyscraper. If approved, the city would pull $1.1 million to fund fencing and secure ground floors of the structure. And then another $2.7 million would be allocated as a loan to cover costs associated with a variety of things like security services, fire safety upgrades, graffiti abatement, and other measures.
Does that mean taxpayers are now on the hook for close to $4 million?
Yeah, another great question. Actually, LA City officials say they'll take a look at trying to pass the bill to the property owner, and they may even pursue legal action if necessary. The LA City Council has already voted to secure the site and restore the sidewalks unless the property owners fail to respond by Saturday, by tomorrow, and agree to come in and remove all graffiti and debris and securely fence the property all on their own accord, on their own dime. Also, interesting to point here, Councilwoman Imelda Padilla, she's saying at the end of the day, this is her quote, the only reason why we're talking about it is because it's just so gigantic, but we have these all over Los Angeles. I can think of at least 4 buildings that are mini versions, what is neglect from property owners, David.
Yeah, I mean, graffiti is a big problem in California, and I know in Oakland and the Bay Area, there's even a church in San Jose that's been abandoned, and the city's wondering who's going to take accountability, who's going to pay and renovate it, because it is an eyesore.
Sure.
So, what about arrests? Has anybody been charged with any of the tagging or vandalism over there?
Here's what we've learned from Los Angeles Police Department. Their Central Division officers, they oversee downtown LA and other nearby areas. They're reporting at least 7 individuals have been arrested so far on suspicion of vandalism, trespassing, burglary, or other crimes. And then earlier this week, LAPD Police Chief Michael Moore reports his officers have already logged 3,000 hours to protect the property, and that includes the use of overtime. And that is a lot of taxpayer money. Bottom line, there is a fix to this mess if the city can secure the funding. And once again, LA City Council says they want the owners of the building, Oceanwide Holdings, to pick up the tab. But again, the Beijing-based company says they're out of money. So what are you going to do? You can't squeeze blood out of a turnip.
I mean, Bill Thomas reporting from, coming from LA. Thanks for all your insights. It's very valuable. Appreciate it, Bill.
David, great to be with you. Have a great night.
A semi-truck explosion in Southern California left 9 firefighters injured and 2 in critical condition. Here's NTD's Stephanie Sakal with more.
Around 7 a.m. on Thursday in Wilmington, 12 firefighters were responding to a semi-truck with a pressurized cylinder that was on fire. Footage from the Citizen app shows just 6 minutes later the truck exploded, causing a fireball and an electrical transformer explosion heard by nearby residents. The explosion injured 9 Los Angeles firefighters with 2 in critical condition. The injured firefighters were taken to Harbor UCLA Medical Center. The critically injured pair are a married couple with children and are now getting specialized care. The uninjured truck driver cooperated with investigators, calling 911 after noticing issues with the tank. Video footage showed the burned semi-truck fueled by 2 100-gallon tanks of compressed natural gas. One tank exploded and the other was safely emptied. The explosion caught by a doorbell camera. Over 150 firefighters, including a hazardous materials team, responded. Air quality tests confirmed normal levels after safely releasing gas from the second tank. Mayor Karen Bass praised the firefighters for their bravery. Stephanie Sakal, NTD News.
Breaking records and rewriting history, we turn our attention to the world of college basketball, where Iowa's Caitlin Clark has just achieved a milestone that's sending shockwaves through the sports world. NTD's Carlos Reyes has more on the story.
In a stunning display of skill and determination, Caitlin Clark has etched her name into women's college basketball history. The Iowa superstar not only surpassed the legendary Kelsey Plum's scoring record, but did so in spectacular fashion, draining a deep three-pointer from well beyond the logo against Michigan. Clark's record-breaking feat didn't stop there. With an awe-inspiring performance, she went on to shatter her own career high by finishing the game with an astonishing 49 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists, leading Iowa to a commanding 106-89 victory. This season, the 6-foot senior point guard has been a force to be reckoned with, averaging 32.1 points, 7 rebounds, and 8.3 assists per game. Her shooting prowess, exemplified by a career-high 47.3 field goal percentage and a remarkable 39.3% from beyond the arc, has left opponents in awe. What sets Clark apart is not just the numbers, but the jaw-dropping manner in which she achieves them. Her limitless range, demonstrating by daring logo distance pull-ups and lightning-fast transition threes, have become trademarks of her game. Whether speeding past defenders or powering through for and ones, Clark's versatility on the court is unparalleled. As the national spotlight intensifies, Clark is poised to make history once again, eyeing the all-time Division I men's scoring record set by Pete Maravich within the next month. With Iowa ranked at number 2 and Final Four aspirations, Clark's journey is poised for a storybook ending as she aims to lead her team to their first national championship in April. The basketball world eagerly awaits every move from this phenomenal athlete. Carlos Reyes, NTD News.
And stay tuned for China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer coming up next. In China news, a 4-month sentence handed to a former Apple engineer. That's over stealing self-driving car technology before attempting to flee to China. More details coming tonight on NTD's China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer. And that's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Lamb, sitting in for David Zing. Have a wonderful weekend.